stream. There's like 30,000 people watching. I'm about to mute up, and I'm going to throw this live. By the way, you guys go follow this guy. You know what I mean? I've been getting a lot of my updates from him. You know, I love the fact that you're on the ground. You know what I mean? I think you did a great service for the Young Boy trial. And now with this case, which we've been so fascinated about, it's ridiculous. First of all, I just want to just kind of throw it to you that you could kind of update me on what went on today, because I predicted yesterday, I'm like, hey, listen, why is Kelsey taking the stand today, knowing that Tory's whole defense is kind of angling, saying she did the shooting? How does she know that maybe the whole jury or maybe everybody in the world believes she did it, and now you're susceptible to charges, and now we hear about an immunity deal? Please break it down for me.
So it's a crazy day. Day starts, Kelsey says, I'm not going to testify. When Kelsey says, I'm not going to testify, the prosecutor responds by saying, I will give you use immunity, which means that if you agree to testify, I will not use any of your testimony against you. Now, the reason why Kelsey can say that I won't testify is she has the right to invoke the Fifth Amendment. You can only invoke the Fifth Amendment. You can't just say, I invoke the Fifth because I don't want to talk to police. No. You can only invoke the Fifth if you are being compelled to testify. In this case, she's being forced to testify, and the testimony that she's going to give is self-incriminating. So, the second she walks into court and says that I invoke the Fifth, I can't testify, that tells you that she did something that night that would incriminate herself. Separately, she invoked the Fifth specifically in reference to the question, what was the context of the comment Tory made that I'll shoot? Now, it seemed that she denied that that comment was also made, but more importantly, it seemed that she was saying that I invoked the Fifth. I can't tell you what happened around the timing of that because I would incriminate myself. That is a big win for the defense, but this is not just a mollywop victory for the defense. There's a lot going on here. So, okay, they invoke the Fifth. She gets the immunity. She's now testifying, and she runs back all of these statements that she's made to prosecutors, and she says, oh, hey, you said Tory popped out, had the gun up, and was shooting at y'all? No, that was a lie. Oh, you said Tory reached into the gun to get the console? No, that was a lie. So she admits that all that stuff is a lie. Okay, then we get to the prosecutor stuff. And these are major feathers in the cap of the prosecutor. And that is two pieces of evidence. One, the concept that there was money being offered. Now, what was it being offered for? There's a lot of room to play there. First off, the biggest thing here is that Kelsey denies that she took any money. She said, I didn't take any money. I'm not testifying here because I've been paid to testify. I'm not being silenced. I've been paid to testify. That goes a long way. She does, however, acknowledge that offers may have been made. So the prosecutor's whole point is that she's doing all this shit because she's getting paid. Kelsey's whole point is that I deny. So, question back to Kelsey. Why are you not talking? What's going on here? What is it that you're afraid of saying? We don't get that answer. She just keeps saying, to protect myself. So there's the money angle, which goes against Kelsey, and then there's the text message. The text message is from Kelsey to a security guard. It says, Tory shot Meg. How do you explain that message? Well, if your theory is that Kelsey is a big-ass liar, Kelsey was involved in this shooting, and from the jump is just saying whatever she can possibly say whenever she can say it to avoid putting the burden on her, and couple that with the fact that Meg has never spoken to Kelsey. They're not talking. They had a complete falling out. The prosecutor asked Kelsey, hey, why aren't you and Meg talking? And Kelsey said, I don't know. Look, there's so much going on. There is just so much going on. And, you know, my big takeaway is this is not a case about Meg versus Tory. This is not a case about who's right, who's wrong. It's not a case about who's lying, who's telling the truth. This is a case about reasonable doubt. Prosecutors believe that a man got out of a car, pulled a gun, and shot 5 times at a woman. I would ask those prosecutors, do you really believe that? And if you do, why haven't you charged attempted murder? What they probably know is that there's more to this story. It doesn't fit a clean narrative to dunk on Tory, so they're not telling us more of this story. And now they've given Kelsey immunity. They told her, this is interesting. We're going to need, to keep this open, and we'll see how this plays out in the future. But let me tell you how the immunity played out, because this is very interesting. So she comes into court. She says, I'm not going to testify. Okay. Now they say, well, we'll give you use immunity. Anything you say won't be used against you. And then her lawyer comes back and says, that's not good enough. I want something called transactional immunity, that you cannot charge me for anything that came out of this circumstance, that night, that incident. You are giving me immunity that you will never charge me for anything that happened that night. They said, we can't do that. But they went on the record and told the judge on the record that we will not charge Kelsey with any crimes, that we have no intention, we will not charge Kelsey with any crimes of what happened that night. What does all that mean? As a practical matter, there's no way you'll ever have the evidence to charge Kelsey. And she's been given both use immunity, so her words can't be used against her, and she's been given a statement on the record from prosecutors that she will not be charged for anything that came out of this incident. That's crazy that they would do that. If there's a possibility that this person is lying all over the place, if you didn't investigate her for DNA, if you didn't investigate her for fingerprints, you didn't arrest her that night, you didn't interrogate her that night, and then you gave her immunity later on, that's crazy to me. And so all that, when you tell all of that to a jury, and now you tell them that, okay, well, we want you to lock this man up for 22 years. They're not going to tell him the time that he's facing, but we want you to hit him with, felony assault with a semi-automatic firearm because he had intent to harm this woman when he pulled a gun and shot at her. Man, I got to think that 1 out of 12 jurors, or it might be 14, is going to say, that doesn't add up to me. I'm not ready to convict somebody in a case like this. This is too messy.
Hey, so watching or even listening to even your reports, and it seemed very bombshells were being dropped. Did the prosecutors have any idea that Kelsey, because Kelsey went against, she basically said, whatever I told you guys, complete cap.
Yes, that's what she said, and they had no idea. And I'll tell you another interesting dynamic of how that played out. So they had no idea. And she was struggling. The prosecutor was really struggling because prosecutors don't expect that, and they're not ready for that. It doesn't happen all the time, and she was just not ready for it. But the judge bailed out the prosecutor because the judge didn't like it. The judge saw that here's a person who's recanting everything they told to an investigator. And so the prosecutor basically would just keep asking the same questions all over again. She would cover a topic, and then she would go back to that topic because she couldn't deal with Kelsey's recanting and telling her that everything was a lie. And so the prosecutor got really off guard, but the judge saved the prosecutor, and the judge gave the prosecutor a lot of leeway to repeat questions, to re-ask questions, to ask questions in ways that I think a normal witness would not have to answer. But because the judge did not like this witness either, basically saying that, hey, I'm a big fat liar, I've been lying to you guys all along, the judge let the prosecutor go. It went on for so long. I mean, you're talking about Kelsey started testifying in the morning. She's not even done with the direct examination by the prosecutor. So tomorrow she'll go back. The prosecutors will continue questioning her, and then we'll get cross-examination. Oh, Lord.
Wow. So as I was kind of seeing this go down, I said to myself, I'm wondering, and by the way, now I'm in the realms of just theories, because at the end
we're
of the
all
day,
in the deep end, bro. We are deep. This is deep at this point.
I'm wondering if Tory's attorney or Tory's defense, his whole team, had any idea this was going to happen. Because in my opinion, if she did what she was supposed to do, she was supposed to put Tory in a position where I speculated Tory has to take the stand. I think after this, I'm like, don't take the stand, because you haven't even got to cross yet, and she's basically fucked up everything the prosecutor got going on direct. This is amazing. She's working for the defense.
No, that's your read on that is very right, but it can go either way. You're absolutely right that after Kelsey kind of shits on everything and just confuses everything up, you could kind of just maybe leave it at that. But I don't think so. Not with the statements of him offering money, not with the text message. I think he's going to take the stand. I think that's going to be crazy.
Hey, let me also ask you. So, even watching that whole thing, I'm wondering if is because she doesn't have that transactional immunity. How prepped you think her lawyer, had her to? Hey, listen, you can say these things, but not these things.
I don't know. I mean, look, all I can say is this. With or without transactional immunity, I feel like, and I'm not a California attorney would have to give anybody advice on what is the value of a prosecutor going on the record and stating that we're never going to charge her for this, or we have no intention to charge her. But in my mind, I feel like she went up there testifying with complete faith that nobody is going to charge her with this. Despite that, she had a lot of trouble testifying. I mean, when I tell you, I can't even. I used to do high school debate, and I'm a lawyer now, and my greatest skill is seeing a bunch of information unfold in front of me and then saying that to somebody in a digestible format. I can't even begin to try to digest for you the testimony from Kelsey today. It was fucking everywhere. And the prosecutor was so shocked and so confused by what was coming out, she was everywhere. And so the whole shit is just a fucking mess. I think because of that, you probably need Tory to come in and say their alternative theory and hear from him in his words what went down that night. If you don't hear from him, that's too risky, bro. Listen, I'm no criminal defense attorney. I'm no trial lawyer, but I'm a human being. I've been in that courtroom all day. If I were a juror, I'd want to hear from Tory.
Let me ask you this, because this is the angle I'm getting. And again, I'm reading all the reports from you guys who are in there, and I'm taking, pretty much everyone says the same thing. Sometimes, certain people might not have emphasis on certain parts. Some people might think it's important. But what I took away from even her testimony today, Kelsey, that is, it seems like more than anything, or whatever her feelings is towards Tory, she hates Meg.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one theory you can take away from this testimony is that she shot Meg. That maybe Meg doesn't know. I think the defense theory will be this: there's a tussle of a gun between two people, and that's the two people with the GSR. And in that tussle, the gunshot residue ends up on both of them. The gun goes off. Whether Meg gets shot or not, or whether she cuts her foot on something else, is an open question. Kelsey testified today that she heard that Meg cut her foot on glass. That's ultimately going to come down to, I think, the doctor. There's a doctor's report that shrapnel was taken out of the foot. That doctor, I think, will testify, and we'll get a sense of, is he 100% sure that shrapnel was taken out of her foot, or was he just connecting the dots saying, this woman came in, there was gunshots, they told me that, and I pulled some shit out her foot, so I figured it must have been shrapnel. We don't know.
Well, according to the police reports, two doctors said two different things. The first doctor said, okay, we listened to her story and we thought her injuries was consistent with glass. And then the second one, who supposedly was the surgeon, who I think is supposed to testify if they didn't already, the surgeon said supposedly, we did extract bullet fragments, which allegedly I don't know where the deal with that is.
Well, we'll see. We're going to see what happens there. Before we even get there, there's going to be a cross-examination. Pray for Kelsey, man. She's going to get cross-examined. It's going to be insane.
Has she or anyone alluded to a possibility that her and Megan were fighting? Because Meg strongly denied that, right? Meg also said in a public interview she didn't put hands on anyone that night, right? But there is a witness who said there were women fighting in the streets, right? And I'm wondering if Kelsey's going to admit to the fact that maybe her and Meg were into it physically, because I just believe the narrative I've been watching the narrative of, she insulted Tory's music and a gun was pulled. It's kind of like, come on now, like, it's hard for me to believe. But if you tell me, well, it started from the crib, Kylie's crib, and there was some jealousy stuff, arguments, they got kicked out, everyone's drunk, now they're in the car, they're all arguing, then they get out and get physical, maybe there's some threats thrown back and forth, insults, then a gun comes out, possibly a struggle, sounds like a more complete story to me. And I'm just only going off if I was hearing a complete narrative. What have you thought about what the prosecutor? Because it's their case.
I agree with that 100%. I agree with that 100%. I can't, in my mind, understand how a prosecutor would open this trial with an opening statement, which is basically that Meg insulted his music. She got out of the car, and 7 seconds later, he jumped across the back passenger seat, grabbed the gun up from somewhere, and shot at her 5 times. That's an aggressive story. That paints Tory to be an absolutely horrible human being who deserves no sympathy, no grief. And the evidence is not lining up with that story. The idea that somebody said something to him, they got out the car, and he decided to go after that person with a gun and shoot at her. And again, I've said this now a couple times in my videos. If you believe that that's the story, how is he not charged with attempted murder?
I was also thinking, why is he not charged with possibly kidnapping or at least unlawful imprisonment if he's telling someone, well, hey, get back in the car. Hey, you just got shot. It's reasonable to assume that, hey, I'm going to listen to the big bad guy with the gun who just shot me, and I'm hoping he doesn't kill me. He forced me to get back in the car. That's a charge.
The idea that the guy, here was their opening statement. So in their opening statement, they say, Meg gets out of the car. She's trying to get away. Tory shoots at her 5 times. She gets shot in the foot. She hobbles away. Kelsey goes to save her, console her. Kelsey has now gone to her and is consoling her, and the both of them see Tory approaching. They don't know if he has a gun. Kelsey is scared. Kelsey intercepts Tory. Tory then jacks up Kelsey, physically assaulting her, grabbing her by the hair, throwing her to the floor, breaking her necklace off, taking off her nail. If that's the story, if that's what you intend to prove in court, good luck, bro. That didn't happen. Come on. That didn't happen. There's no way. That sounds absurd to me.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that, and I'm just wondering how. I hate to, and obviously a whole trial is way more complicated than trying to score like a MMA fight or a boxing match or something like that. But I've been trying to score each day, and I think a lot of people, and I wanted to ask your opinion on Meg's testimony, because I think a lot of people say she did what needed to be done.
She did.
Yeah.
And she gave that boy work in the second half. Here's the thing with Meg's testimony. In the morning, she was not good. And I said, and people dragged me on the internet for saying that the jury would have expected to see a strong black woman. What they saw was a guarded woman who seemed unsure of giving her answers. Not someone who came in and said, I was shot. That's the guy who shot me. I'm here for justice. She seemed like someone who was very scared to answer questions. That was the morning. I think she watched my video, because when she came back in the afternoon, the first word out of her mouth is, this morning I felt guarded. I wanted to come off strong. I didn't. I want to feel strong. And then they proceeded to do that. And she gave the defense attorney work. Look, Meg's story, Meg's truth is not the deciding factor here. Meg can turn around, hear gunshots, and think that Tory shot her. That's completely plausible. Meg was probably drunk out of her fucking mind. Everybody was drunk out of their fucking mind. None of them should be considered reliable sources of what happened that night. And for the prosecutor to go around there with their opening statement and say that this is how it went down, and for Kelsey to come in and say, yeah, all that shit was a lie, none of that shit is accurate, that's not how it happened, that's where we're at.
Is there any mention of who that gun is registered to, if it is?
No. Interestingly, there was some mention early on, I wasn't here for jury selection last week, that they were having trouble finding Quan, the driver, who presumably would have been the man responsible for that gun. I don't know if they found Quan. We'll see. If Quan comes in and testifies, his testimony is going to be critical. Some of the other people who are expected to testify here, they're talking about Corey Gamble, Kylie Jenner, to testify as to Meg's state of mind and just the circumstances surrounding them leaving the party. That's going to be insane if that happens.
I'm probably guessing they're going day by day. They definitely knew that Meg was going to come in yesterday. They definitely knew that Kelsey was going to come in today. Have they not said anything like, "Oh, hey, well, we got to wrap up this whole Kelsey thing because we have to bring like Corey Gamble or maybe Kylie," because that would be just shocking if we saw any of them took the stand, honestly.
Yeah, no, there's no wrapping up. Basically, the judge, especially with the way Kelsey's testimony came out and her just being the judge is just going to let it go. He's going to let everybody ask as many questions as they want of Kelsey because it's impossible to make any heads or tails of her testimony. So he's just going to let them keep asking her questions. He's not going to hurry things up. There's no indication of when or if there's an indication these other people will testify because those statements have been made. I think the Corey Gamble statement was made during the opening statement that he was there, and Kylie is all over this thing. And there's credibility issues where people are denying what Kylie said to them. And so that's the kind of reason why you would call somebody. And there's no way you cannot show up. If Kylie gets a subpoena, she's a person with knowledge of a crime that happened in the state of California. She's got to show up.
You don't think she can fight it?
I mean, she will try to fight it, but on what ground? What basis do you have to not testify? You were there. There's a criminal trial going on. You have information, and you're being asked to come in and give the information. What's the problem?
Maybe on the grounds of, hey, listen, you guys are investigating a crime that happened where I was not present at the vicinity. I guess I was present previous to where these individuals were, but I have no information about the actual crime happening.
Agreed, but there's statements in here about what Kylie said to Meg. For example, Meg denies that Kylie said that it's time for you to go. Kelsey says that happened. That when Meg came out, Meg told Kelsey that Kylie said it's time for us to go. And then there's also other issues of, how drunk were they? How many drinks did you have? What type of alcohol? I mean, there's relevant information in a criminal trial is a lot more than just the people who were at the scene of the crime. So I fully expect that they will call her. I assume she can challenge it. Why not? You can always challenge a subpoena. I don't really see a basis for a winning challenge. So if they want her, I think they'll get her.
Wow. How hard, given how Kelsey's answered, how hard do you think that Tory's defense attorney will go at Kelsey? Because Kelsey seems already to be basically saying, I don't think or I don't have knowledge that Tory shot anyone. Do they need to be aggressive? I thought at first she was going to say the opposite. So I said, hey, they can't go hard on the victim, which is Meg, so they kept it light. But they got to go hard at Kelsey. But Kelsey is basically saying, I don't know nothing.
Yeah, I'm not going to speculate on what the cross-examination is going to be, but it's going to be, they're going to go at her. That's the nature of it. That's how criminal trials work, man. I mean, their theory in the opening statement was that she was the shooter. They're going to have a go at her.
I know that the immunity deal is going to always come back up, right? Because, again, she doesn't have full immunity. Is there any strategy that she might say things that she could possibly, because you tell me if I'm wrong. I believe whatever she says, she will, her testimony will not be used against her. Isn't there a chance that either she's gonna withhold things that she might not want to bring into play, period, or maybe say things that she knows will probably disqualify the prosecutor from looking into later because they also gave, again, their word on the record. Plus, she has that, that written document saying you can't use that anyway.
Yeah, look, the immunity thing's complex. One thing is certain, I think it's black and white, we all understand it, can't be used against her. This concept of what's the value of the prosecutor's statement on the record that they have no intention, that they will not charge her, I don't know. To me, it sounds the same as transactional immunity. It seemed to me, and I'm just guessing here, that the LA County prosecutor probably has a policy that we don't give transactional immunity, but we'll say on the record or we'll give you a representation that we're not charging you and we're not looking at you for this. The interesting part here is, well, can she be tried for perjury? So, yeah, she has immunity. She's invoked her fifth. She got the immunity. So now she's taking the fifth off the table and she's going to talk. When she talks, if she lies and they can prove that she's lying, that's perjury. You don't get immunity from perjury.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, no, it's interesting. I'm wondering why the hell she was tripping up when they asked her about Tory's threat. Is there any feel like she's protected Tory?
Absolutely. There were long pauses during these questions. It's that's the whole government case, that she's being paid to do this. Now, there are her denials. She's flat out denying on the record, I never took hush money. In fact, she said, I don't know if this is true, she said that after the shooting, Meg was putting narratives out there that she took hush money. And so Kelsey said that pissed Kelsey off. And then, all these offers, these happened before Kelsey goes and sits down with investigators and gives all the information about Tory, which, if you're the defense and your theory is that she was the shooter, okay, that adds up. She's saying all that shit to cover her ass and save Tory. We'll see.
Gee. I wish this shit was televised, man. It's just like a movie, brother.
It should have been televised. I don't know why it's not. At this point, everybody's reporting on it. Everybody's trying to get in. It should just be televised. What's the difference?
I agree. Hey, listen, not to switch gears, but since I run a news page, it's been so hot on, like, this is equally as popping as the Meg stuff. Did you see what happened with my man Gunner?
So Gunner is interesting. I'll give you my take. I haven't done a post on it. We'll do it here. First, the prosecutors take an L, in my opinion, when they hold a guy on bond for longer than they wanted him to serve on the crime. They denied this man a bond. They were going to continue to deny this man a bond. He would have sat there for 2, 3, 6 more months while this trial was playing out. And ultimately, at the end of the day, they made a value judgment that for his crimes that we've charged him with, 1 year is enough. So they actually wanted to hold him on bond longer than they wanted him to serve on the crime that they charged him with, which I think is a very important point here, because you see the effect that denying a bond has on someone. In fact, it is more of a punishment than the crime that they were trying to find you guilty of. That's not cool. As a criminal justice system, as a prosecutor who takes that plea, you take that plea, you enter that plea, you better not call that a dub. That's not a win. That is shameful. That's not good prosecution. What do I think about going from here? I haven't looked at it. I haven't seen it. My understanding is that he's not snitching. He has not given them any information. He's accepting accountability. His basic statement seems to be that there is a gang. I have nothing to do with it. I'm part of a label. If my songs have repped that gang, if my songs have shitted on people who that gang has problems with, then I understand how you guys are saying your laws work. Your laws basically are criminalizing my words because I'm expressing support for a group that is out there committing crimes. Do I have a problem with that? No. I mean, if you're going to penalize people for that, okay. But if you're going to arrest them and then hold them for a year, and then you were going to continue to hold them for longer, and then you say, oh yeah, for his crime, the penalty is actually less than the time that we wanted to hold him for. What?
I'm wondering if there's another angle here, because it's no way they're just throwing Gunner a bone, right? So I'm wondering what the prosecution angle is. Number one,
no, that's it. They're looking at it and they're going, we charged this guy for saying shout out YSL. That's literally what we charged him for. He never did anything. He has nothing to do with nothing. We're probably not going to get him for more than a year. Let's just fucking settle this case.
Well, also,
he doesn't have to
from what I read, I don't know if you...
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know if you read this, that apparently part of the plea, he's saying things like to the effect of, for example, like a part of the written plea, he's saying that when he was caught in the car alone with Thug, the guns, the drugs did not belong to him, and he has to be willing to be able to testify to such extent that he's caught, right? And that's a part of the plea, which obviously, I guess people are just using deductive reason to say, well, if it's just me and you, and we're together somewhere, and they find something, I don't necessarily have to say it's you, but if I say it's absolutely not me, and I signed something to say, listen, I you could reverse my entire plea if it's actually me rather than going to fight it. It's almost actually like pointing the quote unquote pointing the elbow, like, you know what I mean?
haven't read it. That doesn't. I think there's something wrong there because I don't think the guns were found in his car. I think the guns were found in the car that was trailing them. The drugs were found in his car.
I'll read it. It says Gunna also attested in the plea deal that he was in a car with Young Thug, whose real name is Jeffrey Williams, when officers pulled him over and found hydrocodone, methamphetamine, and a firearm inside. According to the plea agreement, Gunna claims the gun and drugs weren't his. It's unclear if anyone else besides him and Thug were in the car.
That sounds accurate. What's that? What outlet is that from?
That's WSB TV.
Oh, okay. Well, if part of his plea agreement is he's saying it's not his gun, then certainly that is a feather that adds to the prosecutor's case that it's Young Thug's gun. I don't think it conclusively proves that it's Young Thug's gun, and it doesn't sound like he's saying that it's Young Thug's gun. As we recently saw, there was a gun in Young Boy's car, and he didn't get charged with. He didn't get found guilty of it. So yes, he's doing that, but I don't know that that's him snitching on Young Thug on a gun charge. That's not.
No, not saying. Well, I'm just asking, what's the prosecutor's angle at? Because it's definitely a favorable plea. I'm wondering if they're looking at like, well, at least the plea we gave him now, he's admitting, which is a heavy contention among the majority, especially. Well, Young Thug is pretty much the only other artist that we really, really know. If anyone was trying to make the argument that YSL is only a record label and not a gang, in his plea, he's saying it's both. And maybe you could leverage that to then, again, I don't think none of this shit's going to a trial, but you're just stacking up evidence and pretty much approaching these guys like, listen, you go to a trial with us, we could bring Gunna in just to testify that this thing is also a gang. And you might want to take a plea.
You're 100% right that in taking the plea, he has acknowledged that YSL is a gang, and that is something that prosecutors will be able to use against everybody else where they are trying to prove that YSL is a gang. We can't, however, take from that and now assume that, okay, he's given prosecutors this key fact, and that's what got him such a great deal. That's a stretch. He can't take this plea. You can't plead to racketeering unless you say that there's a gang. You can't plead to a racketeering charge unless there's a gang. You have to say there's a gang if you're going to plead to the racketeering charge. So, I think the whole story has to be done, and then you can figure out what the impact was of Gunna's plea or charge is not fair. I think an equally fair analysis based on the information we know is what got him the lower charge is a prosecutor's opinion that, oh shit, that motherfucker been locked up for a year already? Yeah, that's all we need on his charge. Let's let him go ahead and go. What did he do? He rapped YSL in some songs.
Is the timing not odd though? Because again, he already got denied plea 4 times. He got denied bond 4 times. You didn't have to give him a plea at this point. You could wait till right before trial. You could drag it out as much as he got denied bond 4 times. Clearly, the judges agree with you that he should be let out. And if you feel, you already charged him with all these charges that you were looking for more time. Why randomly just say a month after we denied your last and 4th plea, you know what? We're going to commute your sentence and, you're free to go suspend the sentence. The timing is a lot odd.
I don't think anyone knows. My personal take on it is this is a prosecutor saying, all right, we're about to go to trial. We don't really have much on this guy anyway. He's already done a year. That's good enough for me. By cutting him loose now, we get a couple things. We get his admission, nice. We get what we were probably going to get from him anyway, so he's already served his time, nice. And we don't have to do this shit. We don't have to fucking try to convince the judge and the jury that this shit is racketeering. Because, is saying in a song, YSL, like right now, if I start saying YSL is the fucking truth, fuck yeah, YSL, go get your ops. Am I racketeering?
No.
I don't know. Am I? Like, are we? Like, shit. That's what Gunna pled to.
You would hope not.
That's what Gunna said, right? Gunna said, "Yo, I was repping the gang, and I'm sorry that my art gave them a bigger reputation." Shit, man, I'm sorry my reporting gave people a bigger reputation. But I don't think there's anything suspicious about the timing. I think this man served a year on a very little charge. It's about time that he got out, so they cut him loose. We'll see what the impact of his admission that YSL is a gang has on the 27 other gentlemen who've been charged in this indictment.
Is this a hit on the prosecution's case, though? Because the prosecution, and I watched every single bond hearing, they were in their picture and of this racketeering, situation with this organization. They claimed that he was, one of the guys either funneling money or a person who is calling the shots.
Yeah, so, it's a joke. It's a joke. They said, "Hey, you can't let this guy out. He's going to threaten witnesses. He's going to kill people. He's going to buy everybody off." Well, you just let him out. So, if he was such a big threat, go charge him properly and get your 5 years against the guy. Now, obviously, they will say, "Well, he's rehabilitated. He said that YSL must end. He was a threat before, but he's a new man. He's seen the light. He's taken his plea, and he's no longer a threat." That's the story. But am I, proud of the people? It's the people versus Sergio Kitchens. I don't think the people got a W here.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think there's much more to be seen on this. And I'm for the first time, I'm actually looking at Fonnie Willis a little bit odd because much more than Gunna, at the bottom of the article, which I'm not sure why they use alleged. They're like alleged. Oh, no, never mind. Okay. It said alleged YSL co-founder, which is someone else, which is Walter Murphy, also negotiated plea, according to his lawyer, and that they said that Murphy, which is a co-founder of YSL, has already been released, and he won't testify about the conduct of any other individuals. I'm like, if YSL is so dangerous, why the hell would y'all let go a alleged co-founder? That doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense, but I will say from what I've seen, they will often give high level. They'll give. Listen, if you're willing to give up information, anybody can get the deal. First one to the cookie gets it. That's how it works.
That's interesting, man. Okay, listen. I know you don't do too much forecasting, but I definitely want to know what you forecast is going to happen tomorrow in the Meg and Tory trial.
I think Kelsey's going to have a rough day. I think cross-examination is going to be about painting a story that everything that she has been doing. A lie is the hardest thing to remember, and the reason why she can't remember shit is she's been lying to cover her own ass, and the gunpowder residue is on her because she was going to. I think that's what they're going to do. We'll see how good a job they do. Her lawyer is going to be Tory's lawyer is going to be preparing a lot tonight, and he's up tomorrow. We'll see how he does.
After tomorrow, how many more, or what else how long till we get to the conclusion? Because this is one of those things I just want to end, bro.
Me too. Tory, Kelsey will finish up tomorrow. A gun expert will come in and testify. The medical people will testify. I think there's going to be at least 2 doctors who testify. That's going to be all of Friday. And then I don't know if the prosecution has any more witnesses, and then the defense will go. The defense is not expected to rest. They're going to have some witnesses. They might even have Tory. So, I don't think this case ends until Thursday of next week. And then it'll go to the jury, yeah.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I'm really wondering what the fuck is going on with the driver, man. Can't find this guy to save our lives.
Yo, we need the truth. Quan, if you're out there, if anybody knows where Quan is, get him to the Los Angeles County Clara Shortridge Fultz Criminal Justice Center. He needs to come in and tell his side of the story.
Hey, have you seen the okay, so there's a audio that was supposedly to be him when this first happened. It probably came out the first week or two, and he was explaining what happened supposedly. We have no confirmation it was him, but that was the only ever the only ever confirmation or assertion that we had that he's speaking on the thing. I've never heard from him since.
I remember that audio.
Yeah.
What did that audio say? I remember it. I don't know if it was real. I remember it.
Yeah, I don't know if it's real, but pretty much it didn't really. It kind of painted the same picture, but it didn't really say who shot the person either. Which this is the most fucking confusing case because no one is willing to point out a shooter. Everybody knows everything before. Let's talk about what happened at Carly's house. Let's talk about what happened afterwards. Let's talk about what happened. Who was this and whose music career? Nobody wants to talk about who pulled the trigger.
That's a fact.
I don't know, man. Anyway, thank you for your work, man, and I appreciate you. I like posting your videos and kind of getting the like abridged version of what the heck we're probably missing. It seems like it's just entertaining, but I'm pretty sure you're sitting there and showing up to court early, and it's probably hell getting in every day. So appreciate you for that.
Yo, Ak, I appreciate doing this live with you. It was dope, man. I've obviously been following your page a lot. You're a very important voice, a very important platform. Thank you.
Hey, I know you're from New York. I stay in Jersey City. I have my headquarters there. Please, I need you on my podcast. We need to talk about a whole bunch of whole shit. Okay?
Let's do it.
All right, man.